And here we are. Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. Welcome back to Heroes Always Welcome. Super excited. I've been looking forward to this. We have our first married couple who are both veterans on the show. Enrique Acosta Gonzalez and I welcome Jeena and Boile, or Charlie, Sanchez to the show. They're both veterans, they're married, and they work together. So we're going to get a whole bunch of insight from them. I'm super excited to hear their journey. Welcome. How y'all doing today?
Doing great.
Doing
Thank you
great.
for having
Thank you
us.
for having us on
I'm
the
so
show.
excited to have you on the show. I've been thinking about it. When I started posting, I got a lot of feedback. People were like, "Oh my God!" First of all, I didn't know you were both. They had no. A lot of people had no idea Jeena was in the service and a veteran, and I think that's so interesting to me because I feel like a lot of people still don't think women in service or professional women served our country. So it's just a very. That's why I'm fascinated to hear your story. Tell us a little bit about each of you, and then Enrique, I will obviously allow him to come in, and he's going to take over the interview, just so you know. That's just his thing. But people love the journey. Before we went live, we talked about how important it was for people to hear your journey, to be they see themselves in you. They are maybe struggling if they're veterans who've gotten out of service and are trying to find their way. And you all have found your way. So, Jeena, let's start with you, of course, ladies first, and happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Thank you. Happy Valentine's to everybody out there. So I joined the military right. I guess I was out of high school for a year. I went to college and I just had the calling, like many do. I wanted to do something bigger and better. And I was always in ROTC in high school. And so I decided to take the challenge and join. And as I was looking at all the branches to join, I decided on the toughest one, which was the Marines, mainly because my brother had also served and was still serving at the time. And I would hear all his stories, and I was like, I want to be a part of that. I want to be one of the few, the proud. So I did. I went off when I was 19 and joined.
What'd your parents think?
Oh, my mom had a heart
I
attack.
bet
She's
she
like, both of my
did.
kids in the service. She's like, no way.
Not my baby.
No, and I think at that time as well, my brother had just gotten back from Iraq and the war was going on, and my mom was like, "No, not my baby girl." And what if you have to go to war and all these things? So it was tough for my parents, but they understood that I felt the calling and that I needed to go.
It's a beautiful thing to feel the calling. And how long did you serve?
6 years.
Thank you for your service, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. All right, Boile, Charlie, Boile Sanchez, tell us about you. You're what I would consider almost a life for 20 years. Tell us about your journey.
Well, Ted, thank you for having us. This is definitely great. Thank you for your audience. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there, and for our brothers and sisters in the service. Thank you for your service. I know you guys don't hear this enough. Thank you for your service. I myself, I did 20 years in the Marine Corps. Recently retired back in May 2021, and I can't tell you, it is great. It is great to be retired. The journey was long, but very interesting to say the least. I'm from Dominican Republic. I came here when I was 8, Brooklyn, New York. It was rough back then. So the reason I joined the Marine Corps was there was a commercial back in the days. I don't know if a lot of the service member out there will remember this commercial when the Marine was climbing a mountain, and when he got to the top of the mountain, he started spinning and turned into. Actually, he defeated a dragon. After defeating the dragon, he started spinning and turned into the dress blues. Back then, I really didn't understand a lot of English. I just saw the commercial and I connected with that.
Wow.
And I told myself one day I want to be wearing that uniform. Um 8 years later, 9 years later, after graduating from high school, I went and saw the Marine Corps recruiter and joined the Marines. 20 years later, I'm here, retired,
It's,
and it was great.
it's amazing. I think how funny that, not funny, but inspiring that was what got you. That's what attract. I remember those commercials.
Yeah.
I mean, I was 80 when they came out. You were a baby, but still, I remember the commercials. And I don't have a lot of people in my family that are in the military, but I always remember those commercials. Just they were inspiring. I understood why they would motivate people to want to find out more about the Marines and want to find out more about being active duty. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for your service. I do mean that. I appreciate it. Enrique, before we get started and take a deep dive, tell them a little bit about you, because you also are a veteran.
Yes, thank you, Ted, and thank you both for your service. I really appreciate all that we've done, right? Because they're kind of like Snoop Dogg. I want to thank me for me. But yeah, Enrique Acosta Gonzalez served 26 years in the Navy, retired as well, and am in the leadership development arena, and that's what I've been doing since I separated and retired from the Navy. But yeah, I love this story because, as you said, Ted, we don't hardly ever see the combination. Both vets, both have served, and now working together. So that's what I want to know about.
Me too. It's like Married at First Sight or Married in the Military. We should have a whole new show.
But we know transition, right? Transition is very tough.
Very.
But I love this story because this is a good one. When you transition and retire or separate, and you have a battle buddy in your house, it's a different dynamic, right? So I would love to hear how transition was for both of you from a veteran and then mil spouse, point of view, and then actual retiree that actually has someone to lean on at home.
Yeah, and I want to hear. First of all, did you meet in the Marines and then got married? Because I think if you did, then that even tell us a little bit about that. How you became a couple.
You want me to start it?
Look at the twinkle in both their eyes.
We did meet while we were in. He was the operations chief at the unit I was at, and he was kind of my boss, not really my boss. He was higher ranked than me, but not my direct supervisor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, it was definitely interesting when we met. It was my first. I was the operations chief for in Orlando, and it was my first real weekend. So of course, Jeena, she gets to a place and she just takes over. Obviously, that morning, being my first real weekend, I'm in my office and I see this Marine that just walks into my office, don't even looks at me, and starts opening my safe. So I'm like, okay, something's not going right here. I need you to stop what you're doing, put some discipline in your body, and try it again. So I kindly asked her to leave my office. Obviously, she didn't like me much afterwards, so that made things kind of difficult for me to try to, accomplish my ultimate goal, which was marrying this beautiful.
He asked me out to dinner a few times, and I was like, no. No.
So I waited for one day that she was hungry, and I said, "She's got to tell me yes. She got to tell me yes because everybody likes to eat." So
yeah, my best friend was like, "Let's go out to dinner with him. It's a free meal."
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, 11 years later, here we are.
Isn't that amazing? That's awesome. So did
she finally cracked your safe open?
She cracked that safe open.
Yeah, she did. She did.
So you left 6 years in. So you transitioned out first. Talk about that. How was that transitioning out, and then how was it still having Boile in the service while you were transitioning out and getting into civilian life?
It was right at the peak end. I think I only had maybe like 8 months or something like that left. I think the biggest challenge when you are coming from the military to a full civilian life is, for me, my biggest transition challenge was coming back from the war. You're in this zone 24/7 where it's stressful with what's going on, and when you come back here, it's like, I don't know, you just get a lot of feelings that are overwhelming because you just don't know what to feel. You're no longer in this combat zone, you're now in the civilian side, but you just went from having, in a sense, a really important job, a really important role, and coming back here, and it's like, how do you just unwind and how do you disconnect from that? That was the biggest challenge I felt, and what really helped me through it was my friends. I had a lot of friends that are in the service that we were still good friends. They're more like family. My kids refer to them as aunts and uncles. Those are the people that really help you transition out. I feel like having those connections. Whenever you are going through a tough time, being able to call on them, meet up with them, I think that's pretty much what helped the most.
And how was it for you having Boile in the service? Because you were still active because you just retired last year or the year before.
May
Uh,
2021.
How was that on your relationship, on the marriage part? Because you're still in, and Jeena obviously knows what you're going through. She understands. She has a perspective, but she's out, and you guys are balancing the civilian and military life.
So it was very unique, when we first met. One thing that we always talked about was not being dual service member because of how difficult it is on your family, your kids. Um, that being said, that's the reason why when we decided to, this is something that we want to pursue, we want to start a family. The decision for her to get out, which is easy. I had already invested 12 years. Therefore, it was just, hey, you finish your career. She supported me, throughout my career, which that's gonna explain a lot of the reasons why today I pretty much work for her. She supported me throughout my Marine Corps career. It's very difficult in a family. We move every 3 years. Her having her master's in mental health counseling every 3 years, she pretty much had to start over. So I'm sure a lot of people out there can understand how difficult that is. And she supported me throughout my time. So that's why now, after being retired, I think it's my time for me to support her career in the real estate industry. Because again, she did it for 10 years and without skipping a beat. And I thank you for that.
Oh.
What a great Valentine's Day.
Right? Got all the dudes out there thinking, oh my God, how am I going to top that one? Tell me about being in business together. Jeena, did you always know you wanted to get in real estate when you got out, and having a mental health counselor master's background? How did you make that segue to real estate?
Well, I've always loved real estate. Even before I bought my first property when I was 20 years old. That was my first rental property. I love real estate. I think it's a financial vehicle that helps people get, to where they need to get to financial independence. And I just always loved it. Anytime someone mentioned, hey, I'm buying a house. Oh, let me help you. I was on there searching. I'm like, let's look at the pros, the cons. Does it make financial sense? And I'm just always running those scenarios with people. And just as we met people along the way and meeting other service members, realizing that a lot of them didn't know the benefits they had, with a VA loan and just all the ins and outs that go around there. And no, I can't afford to buy. I was like, but did you know you don't need a down payment?
Right.
And just realizing how many people didn't know about those benefits, I'm like, wow, we can really make a difference if we focus, on veterans. And just I decided to get my license, and he's the one that pushed me. He's like, get your real estate license. Even if you still want to do mental health, that's fine. But you can also do real estate. But once I got my license, and worked with my first client, I was like, I love this. This is it.
I think mental health counseling prepares you a lot for being a realtor. I'm just going to say it out loud, or being in this real estate industry. So, Boile, when Jeena got her license and you got out of the service and you guys began to work together, what was that like? Because a lot of couples struggle if they're working together, that work-life balance, not bringing work home, trying to figure out how to keep the marriage going well and not argue about work and all of the pressures there. Because a lot of us, we come home to our spouses and that's our release. But you all are in it together all the time. Tell me about how that works.
I mean, sometimes it's challenging because we're both, very passionate individuals. We are go-getters. So oftentimes, it's easy for people to clash. But the way I deal with the situation to just make it easier is, like I said before, she supported me throughout my Marine Corps career. So now my role is to support her in her journey in the real estate industry. Very important to mention, the reason why I got my license, other than supporting her, is because was it 3 years before I retired? My mother bought her first house. Achieving that American dream. However, when she was dealing with her agent, she didn't understand the process. So I'm on the phone. I'm the one selling the house. I'm the one explaining things to her because every 30 minutes, she just wants to back out. She doesn't understand.
Buying a house here is not the same as buying a house in Dominican Republic.
Exactly.
Right.
So again, every 30 minutes, this agent is calling me, hey, talk to your mom. She wants to back out. But the reason she just didn't understand the process. Therefore, she was skeptical about everything. He pretty much was not doing his job. He was just having her sign here, sign there. And that happens to a lot of people out there. So I was like, you know what? When I get my license, I want to invest time in my client and making sure that they're comfortable, they understand every step of the way. Because buying a house, that is one of the biggest investments that you will make in your life. Therefore, understanding fully what you're doing is something that we're very passionate about, and we make it our priority to explain every step of the way to our clients.
Having somebody guide you with your background, how do you feel the military complement those that are transitioning out are ready for that? Because I was one that had no idea after 26 years how to buy even my first house. Now, thankfully, everything was good and it was very smooth. But how do you feel the military complement is ready for that transition?
Well, every 3 years we move, we get orders. Every 3 to 4 years, you have to move from one state to another.
And we believe in buying. We never rented.
Always bought. Bought a property, put some sweat equity into it. 3 or 4 years later, sold it, made a profit. Then did it again. So in a 10, 12-year period, we did it 3 different times. At the end, when it was time for us to retire, we were trying to decide, hey, are we moving to Orlando or are we going to stay in Charlotte? Are we going to move to Charlotte? So that process was very interesting because there was just so much research. You know, do you want to move to this state or do you want to move to stay in North Carolina? What are the pros and cons? And we ended up buying some land to build here. And this lot, we bought it online.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of time, just taking that leap, take the leap, invest because you're not going to regret it.
Jeena, let's talk about Women's Council. Jeena is the current president of Women's Council of Realtors Orlando Network. So I want to talk a little bit about that. First, why? A lot of time, I've been a member of Women's Council for years. And people always ask me why, but they really ask realtors why. So I want to ask you your why as a real estate agent, a professional, why you got involved in Women's Council. And then talk a little bit about Women's Council because it does so much good in the community. The mission is beautiful, which you can speak or not. I'm going to put it in the comments below anyway. But I want people to understand why that's important to you and sort of the role that Women's Council plays in our community.
Well, certainly went. So when I got into real estate's a little bit lonely. If you work from home, it's like, oh, I don't really have anybody, just my husband. And I don't want to see him. I don't want to see him all the time. I'm always seeing him. So I'm like, man, I would love to be around a group of like-minded individuals. And I just kind of got to searching, and I had a friend, Cassie Landron.
I love Cassie.
Yeah, she was the 2022 president of West Volusia. And she was also in the military. She's an Air Force vet. She kept telling me, join the Women's Council. And I'm like, I don't know. We'll see. I'm just looking around at different groups, going to different mixers and seeing what's a good fit. And when I came across the Women's Council here in Orlando, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time. Is being around like-minded individuals that want to grow together, want to help one another. And it just felt like a great fit. And it's, a leadership organization, leadership development for women. I mean, men are welcome. It was started back in 1938.
You can be a man and be involved.
Yes.
And if you're a man and not involved, you are missing out. I want to tell
they're
you.
both members, just
Yes,
so you
they
know.
are.
But it felt right. It felt right. And so I jumped in, and kind of right away when I jumped in, I got a call from the current president at the time. Hey, I need an events director. I said, sure, I'll jump right in.
Love it.
And just then fast forward, here I am now the president for 2023.
It's an amazing organization. You can always, they have a Facebook page, Women's Council of Realtors Orlando Network. The leadership part, though, I think is important because it's not just networking. It's not just business building. Women's Council's mission and focus has a lot to do with developing leaders and empowering women and empowering the people who surround and support women in the real estate world. And so it's kudos to you, because being president, if you've ever been president of anything, being president can be a challenge. So let's talk a little, and Enrique, I'm talking a lot today, so you please interrupt me if you need to. I want to talk about transition a little bit more before we start to wrap it up. I would love for you to give advice or give your perspective, because a lot of veterans watch the show, and one of the reasons they do is because they are struggling to figure out how they get out. And maybe real estate isn't their passion, but you still figured out how to follow your passion and convert that and make it work in civilian life in the civilian world. Can you both talk a little bit about any recommendations you have, or maybe some advice that you can give veterans out there who are struggling?
Yes, of course. So the mistake we make as veteran service members is we wait till last minute to start transitioning out of the Marine Corps. A lot of variables, a lot of things, to consider. Maybe we have a deployment that's coming up, training exercise. So always your priority is mission, 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 the unit, mission, 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 the service. But we forget about the most important part, which is you, the service member. So starting to invest time in yourself to effectively transition out of the service it has to be a priority. Because once you get out, I mean, that's it. That's it. And in the service, we're in this bubble where everything is handed to us, everything is planned for us, everything is again. You have this roadmap. Follow that roadmap, and you're going to be successful. When you get out of the service, you no longer have this roadmap. Now you're out there. You are on your own. You don't have somebody waking you up. You don't have somebody making these medical appointments.
Telling you where to be at what time.
At what time. So I implemented the same strategy that we use in the Marine Corps, follow a roadmap and you will get promoted. I implemented that to my civilian side. When I picked up, the rank of staff sergeant, you got a staff and CO academy. When I went to started staff and CO academy, right away, I started going to college. And again, Jeena was actually my biggest supporter. Back then she had her degree. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna get my degree. So, getting my undergrad in marketing management was very it was great. But as soon as I got my bachelor's, there she goes and she graduates with her master's. So I'm like, okay, here we go again. So I went and got my master's in project management, but I did that while I was in the service. I didn't wait till after getting out, because I knew that, hey, when you get out, it's game on. It's game on.
Yep.
It's game on. So take advantage of everything you need to while you're in the service. Don't wait. Yeah, continue to do your job. Continue to focus on whatever branch of service you're in, but also put as much effort or maybe more into your personal life and getting ready to transition out of the service.
Planning is key. Yeah, if you have make your timeline. You have this much time left, because the minute you get out, you got to produce your own money. You don't have that check coming in, the 1st and the 15th. So you need to make sure that you plan accordingly, whether it is, like you mentioned, you can go to school while you're in, and a lot of members don't take advantage of that. They wait until afterwards and do the GI Bill, and that's fine, but you can go to school while you're in, and there's different benefits for that. So understanding what benefits you have, so that the moment you get out, you either have a job lined up, you have savings to carry you for a little bit until you find a job. But planning and making those connections, doing those things that you need to do before you get out. Before you get out.
And when we say school, I don't necessarily say go to a college and get a college degree. It can be getting your real estate license, getting a trade, but having something that you can fall back on and be able to provide for your family post your military service.
Beautiful. Enrique, before I have them share all their information, any parting words of wisdom from the Triad Leadership Solutions leader there?
Yeah, no, what they have shared is spot on. And I'll tell you, even with that, having done those things, it still took me about 7 years to get footing enough to do what I'm doing now. So I would add, also connect with your community. Start thinking outside of the military, because that day will come, for some sooner than later. But if you're not thinking on those terms, it will delay how you transition out, whether it's separation or retirement. So great advice there.
Fantastic. All right, Jeena and Boile, tell them the best way they can find you, reach you, find out more about what you do, Women's Council, the whole ball of wax. We do have a website scrolling across the bottom there, but your guys are on social media too.
Yes, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and at jsanchezfrias.theparksrealtygroup.com. Or you can just call me. My phone number is all over my social media. It's on the website. If you just want to chat, whether it's real estate related or just transitioning out or how to get involved with Women's Council, you can definitely reach me.
But in case you can't find her number, I'll give you mine. It's 407-508-8755.
And we'll have all that in the comments as well.
Yes.
Enrique, you can find at triadleadershipsolutions.com or on LinkedIn is his primary place. And of course, all of those links will be in here. Thank you so much. I mean, what an amazing
Thank you
show.
for
Thank you
having
for
Thank you
sharing.
for having us.
There are so many people who I know are going to benefit from your journey and your story and you guys sharing your heart. And truly, all three of you, thank you so much for your service. Happy Valentine's Day,
Happy
everybody.
Valentine's Day.
All right, we'll see you soon. And this is the part where I don't have a producer. So here's what Ted has to do live. I have to go over here and I have to end the broadcast, but we love you guys. If you have a hero that you'd like to have on the show, please reach out to me or Enrique. We'd love to have them on. See you guys soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.